gave a lowdown during the drive, but I don't think I got any of the audio on there. So I'm really just going to keep for video quality that first drive and post it to YouTube. So in this area, I've already described to you the cross problem. If it makes any sense, we got a crosshair trailing from a yacht boat that was full of oil, and trailing from it is an oil spill all the way over to Saudi-owned Florida business. And the crosshair is right over Volusia County. So the place I just left is a subway. Now that's where I met the group of new trainees from Dubai and India. And these guys are training at the airport. Possibly, I don't know, they could just be training to fly planes. They could be planning a terror attack. I mean, they could go fly for Saudi Arabia and India, some more Airbus airlines against southern United States. I'm not sure what they would do with their training other than live a good life. So, I mean, we're going to, outside any sort of terrorist speculation, we got the crosshair. And you guys know that the elections in town were targeted. So what that means is that the elections in town, they put the induction weapons under it. So just like that community there has the tracking and the other suggestive influence, it's also under the ballots in town. And under the ballots, they're doing it. They're making a movie. What they're doing is apparently making a movie to show what this stuff does to people. And they also targeted most of the schools. So this painted a crosshair on the governor of Florida. And what this means is since 1996 or some period of time in the last 5, 6, 7 years, all of the candidates who could replace the governor when the election's fixed or revealed have been in compromised elections, and which means we can topple the entire cabinet of Florida. And then the crosshair is further extended to Washington, D.C. Now, absent the cross problem, which I've got down here in Daytona Beach, I am dealing with the time problem, if it makes any sense. So while driving around here, I just want to let you know those guys are trained over there, and you know the guys from 9/11 trained over at Daytona International. Both of these locations are targeted by spiderwebs, right at Ormond Municipal. It's in one of the hangars by the Civil Air Patrol, and it monitors Riverbend Park and then traffic down this road right here. So while you're driving through here, you should pay attention. There's also the stoplight cameras in town, and then quite a bit of other innovations specific to the area here. So the issues correlated from 9/11-2001, where these guys trained in our town and went to fly against New York. And then now we're finding phone lines as a method of communication. That's really what these patterns are, spiderweb or Wolverine. It's a series of tracking mechanisms and phone lines. And when I say phone line, I'm not talking about standard AT&T or Bell South stuff, or, yeah, you know, it's the phone company, cell phone company. This stuff is an electromagnetic field in the ground that talks to you, if it makes any sense. It's designed to communicate with people in these areas, having some sort of condition met for reception. So in the local area, we have these issues correlated across multiple things. So driving through here, trying to understand, you know, how I'm going to resolve the issue, and, you know, across a spectrum of information, which I'm just gathering and interpreting, you know, wrong or right, it doesn't really matter at this point. What matters is how I evaluate the evidence in place and how it's being used. And what this means is it has to be correlated across physical evidence. So the maps, the cartography I enjoy in the ground, or paying attention to what's going up on the power lines around me, and then paying attention to the world around me in the community, or et cetera, et cetera. It's important to understanding really what's going on in this area. So just to finish up this particular point of trying to understand just the local area issues, these problems correlate back so long it's not even funny. So, you know, I mean, this is just the most recent example of some of the stuff you deal with in the government of anarchy when it comes to the people. I mean, you have to realize, I mean, I don't want to talk about the organization here, but since, I mean, high school, you know what I mean? And when it comes down to getting down to business, I tried to register it online. I think it was early 2000 something. So some of the weird stuff that occurs, the result of just the choices we make in life, if it makes any sense. So in this area, you know, the phone lines are under all the houses. He's obviously the monitoring, and at this moment, I don't want to discuss cell phone tracking, cameras, or any sort of microphones as part of some sort of aggregate system which enables the observation from multiple cameras or multiple points or multiple IP addresses, proven both across German intelligence and Russian intelligence, is the collection of what's known as open stream cameras or other consumer electronic devices, and then organizing them in some way to either look at a community or a group of people, or decipher because of what's available, you know, what's really going on in the community, and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a lot of intelligence logistics to it, but trying to maneuver in an area like this is very difficult when I have to go after the right problems, if it makes any sense. I could step back and say it's a war because you're hurting people in these houses, you know, you've endangered my community, and then correlate it across other activities. For example, they sprayed 4 times, we measured nerve agents and across these 300 flights. And they said nerve agents type B and G. You know, and if it makes any sense, then they slammed 100 missiles into Syria from a submarine and a ship, saying don't use a roadside chemical weapon. And here we are in a community that's literally getting hammered, you know, the result of something that's being built out here. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems correlated across this, and we have a missiles warning. So, where we're dealing with an issue here, they're trying to pull off, you know, 19 hijackers or 19 years after the first attack. You know, it's 9/10/2020. So the issue is 2020, 1919 is 2 forms of countdowns that could possibly be avoided by revealing what I'm doing right now. If it makes any sense, we see what you're doing, we're asking you to walk away. You know what I mean? I don't want the terror attack in my town. I don't want submarine missiles hitting my town. And you understand, and if you let me work as a corporation, I'll tear apart the elections fixes and everything else, and we'll walk away from this war from you guys about to assail my town. This town did not attack your countries. This town did not have anything to do with it. So while I'm working here, what I'm doing is I'm just going to show you where I am right now on this drive back. I want you to notice in some of the locations just the ability to track. Correlated across. In some situations, you'll find that these the ground rods are cut from one piece of equipment to another. So in some instances, the community members might have a ham radio in their house, and then they'll come outside just to make sure they target the right person and cut every ground line between their home and the other home, and then attach the ham radio, and you know, I mean, act like nobody knows what's going on. And you'll, in that situation, you might find that, you know, all the ground lines are cut up to just some small section of the house, you know, leading back to where it's terminating. So for a radio battalion strategy, the placement of ham radios or ham radio relays throughout a community in order to disguise a combatant or a stalker or anything else is one of the logistics that's been used out here. Now, in this area, I want to correlate. We just drove over 95, and there's a tunnel under Highway 95, and I can make another video and show you where that is. And what we have here is it's coming up on one of the other pieces of equipment. Now, if I was to travel the other path to City Hall, you would find the same series of equipment to specific locations in town. And in this area for the competition, I want to note that Colorado Springs has a meter which offers an ELF coil. Now, you know, this area is targeted by a spider web, and some of the others are targeted by spider webs. And to affect those lines in the ground, you can either do it wirelessly by modulating an ELF coil inside the power meter, whether it's Landis and Gear from Germany or Colorado, the two competing companies with the access to the subsurface deployments. And you can almost talk to every house in the area just by accessing that power meter. And in some situations, you actually have to access the premise and gain access to a computer, and then get onto what's a special computer cable, the kind of stuff they make in Taiwan or China to pull this stuff off. So just keep in mind that it's actually a more complex issue. And what I've done here is drive you through what's known as the physical evidence. So this means these things I can document as part of the construction around other problems, and then add to it the cartography I like to do, which indicates you know, subsoil deployments, whether it's just some pattern shape or whether it's other types of wiring like a recovery line or a mole line or anything else. And that's also another problem we have in this area. It's called a mole line, and you know, they'll drill it in from my backyard, and if I pointed at every other house in the area, it looks like a spider web when I'm done. So it's a complicated issue here. So while I'm trying to evaluate my belief and discover a way to fight this problem, what I've resolved is the problem of the rule. You guys know I talk about it all the time, and you know, has something to do with science for me, and indicators of other proofs. But there's also compounding issues of the rule in this area, where, you know, some observation of how many people are involved, how many groups of people are involved. You know, if they spend all this money to put this stuff up and, you know, mess with this community, I'm pretty sure they spent, you know, whatever it cost to dig a freaking tunnel, you know, however deep they had to dig it. So there's a lot going on here that's not being stated, you know, across the board for this particular situation. And then if you know my evaluations, you know, I'm always trying to evaluate what's going on in the area, and a lot of times it gets figured out and it kind of pushes it away. It's like, they ain't doing this shit anymore, they ain't doing this anymore, you know. So it's a dangerous community to live in, but you know, when you drive around, it doesn't look like anything's going on, you know, until you start measuring for the, you know, pesticides, nerve agents, whatever the hell else they're spraying on these people, you know, and then finding the induction lines under the homes or the methods of communication from one mechanism or another. So that's where I am with it.